This is a production of KMmedia.pro. Welcome back to Positive Talk Radio. Our goal is simple: to explore evolving ideas one conversation at a time. So come on over into our world. I know you'll like it, because on today's show, today we get to feature a fabulous young lady who, like me, is out to eliminate hate, division, and fear from all aspects of our lives and everything that we do. And she is an author. She is a podcaster of note. She's the queen of something called Nuggets of Hope, which we're going to talk about. And she's a great young lady, and I believe she's in Pennsylvania today. And her name is Kim Lengling. And Kim, how are you today? And how is Eric as well? Can everybody hear me okay?
We hear you just fine, Kevin. Good afternoon. Happy Friday to you both.
Good afternoon. By the way, Eric, I'd like to thank you, because on one of the rare times that I can't do the show live, I was listening in, and I believe it was on KIXI, and you had a guest on from one of my previous shows, and her name was Kim Lengling, and it was just a terrific show that you picked to air, and I want to thank you for that.
Hey, we try and keep it positive on the show and on KIXI. So, it was a great choice.
Awesome. Yeah. I didn't know that.
And we'll probably replay this one again in the future.
Yes.
Super.
We love what you do. We love the person that you are. And it really is a lot of fun. But first, Eric, I'm told that it's sunny outside. Is the weekend going to be sunny?
Absolutely. Sunny, beautiful, clear, kind of cold, though. We're talking temperatures in the 50s. So, bundle up.
Bundle up. And now we got a ice thing or a frost warning. Is it getting into the 30s at night?
That's right. Yeah. Going to be dipping down into the mid 30s the next few days. So get ready for some chilly temperatures. It's winter is around the corner. But the good news is Halloween, it looks like it's going to be nice and dry. Temperatures around 54. So, not too shabby for all the trick-or-treaters.
We went to Halloween for years and years, and it always seemed to rain. So now my kids are in their 30s, and so they don't go trick-or-treating anymore.
Well, maybe this is the year to get back into it.
Yeah, apparently so. Again, thank you, Eric, for running that episode with Kim. It was phenomenal. I was glued to it, and you can go to positivetalkradio.net and you can listen to that, or you can go to YouTube, Positive Talk Radio, and watch it, that particular episode, as well as this one, which is airing right now. So, Eric, thank you very much. And just as an aside, you can listen to Positive Talk Radio on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on KKNW, and KIXI at 3:00 on Friday afternoon to cap off the stellar week that we all have. And you can always listen to Positive Talk Radio Monday through Friday at 3 p.m. Pacific from 3 to 4. So we do a bunch of these shows. I can't help myself. And guess what? I get to be the guest on Manson Mitchell tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. So if you've always wondered what it is that I do in my spare time, tomorrow they're going to ask me that stuff. And so I can actually tell you how I got to be doing what I'm doing today. So that'll be fun for tomorrow.
Great show. Have a great time.
Thank you, Eric, and you as well. And Kim, can you hear me okay, darling?
I can hear you. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you just fine, just fine. I got to tell you, there are shows that I do and people that I get to meet that I just am, I really am taken with. They're working to do great things in the world, and that's you, my friend. Did you always want to do great things, or did you have an epiphany at one point or another?
What a great question, Kevin. That's a great question. And no one's ever asked me that before. That's kind of cool.
Really?
Um, I remember very clearly when I was younger, say in high school, so I was a teenager, always sticking up for those who didn't really have a voice or couldn't find their voice. And as a teenager, you don't really have the wisdom behind you on how to do that in the right way. So I always ended up getting in a lot of trouble because I had a mouth on me, Kevin. I had a mouth on me.
And you
Um,
use it well.
but I was always sticking up for those who were being bullied or so I think maybe it may have started there. It's just something that's, grown over time. And now, of course, I've reached a season in my life where hopefully I've got some and gained some wisdom. So now I can, temper my temper and use my words a little more wisely now to promote kindness. So I think it may have started back then. That's what a great question. Yeah. Threw me right back to being a teenager and getting in school suspension.
And you got into school suspension because you were trying to protect kids that didn't know how to protect themselves
Yes. And I
from
had a mouth on me. So when the principal said, what are you doing? And I said, what do you mean? What am I doing? Why aren't you stopping him from doing that? That's your job. And then he's like, in my office. And then my mom came in and she's like, what did you do now, Kimberly?
Now, did you when that was happening, did it dawn on you that you were ahead of your time?
No, you know what it felt like? That I was never listened to.
Ah,
I was never heard. That's I had a conversation about this with my mom not too long ago. So, she's 80 and I'm in my mid 50s. And I don't know why this all came up. She asked me why I always felt I had to be so vocal when I was a teenager. And I said, no one ever listened, Mom. No one ever listened. And I didn't know how to go about doing it any other way than how I was. Now, my mom was a single mom raising 4 kids and working 2 and 3 jobs. She didn't have time to guide us as much as she would have liked. And I'm not putting anything against that. She worked her tail off to raise us. And I have nothing but respect. Nothing but respect. Because looking back now from, where I'm at now in my life, and I look back, what a tough road she had. What a tough road she had. And yeah, tough road. But, she'd asked me why I was so vocal. Here's something. I had a friend that she was my best friend, and she tried to commit suicide.
I'm sorry.
And she did not succeed, but her mother blamed me. And I never understood that. And I confronted her mom and said, I won't use the words I used, but in a different way, I said, if she wasn't so unhappy at home and the way that you always knock her around and put her down, maybe she'd want to live. But this woman blamed me. And I went to my mom and I went to my school counselor pleading for help. And they said, that's a family issue. We can't get into that. And so that was like it happened several times because no one else ever jumped in. No one else ever opened up their mouth. And I never understood that. As a teenager, I didn't know how to do it. But the adults, you know how they always tell you, if there's an issue, if you see something wrong or something bad happen, go to an adult. Well, I did over and over again. And no one ever did anything.
But at the
And
same time, what they were doing is saying, "Oh no, we can't. That's somebody else's issue. We can't get involved with that." And
right, we're
and
not going to interfere. That's their family. We can't. And I'm thinking, then why do you raise us and teach us to go to an adult if we see something that's wrong being done? But when we do go to an adult, nothing happens. And literally, we just had this conversation, my mom and I, and she kept saying, Kimmy, I did the best I could. She goes, no, I could not interfere in their family. She goes, but I opened my door. Our house was open to her whenever she needed to come here and stay, whether it was in the morning or the middle of the night. I said, you're right. You're right. And she goes, that's what I could do. I opened my house to her. And she did. She did because she came to my house over and over and over again, running away from the abuse that she was experiencing. And it's just that I think all of that, that ball of blah, brought me to where I am today, where it's like, I want to be a nugget of hope. I don't want anybody else, even someone like me who sees something and you're like, oh my gosh, that's so wrong and we need to fix it and that shouldn't be happening. But I'm just a kid and no one's freaking listening to me. I want someone out there to be able to say, to know that Kim Lengling, I'll listen and I will hear you. If
That is
that's
so
a
important.
way that I could be a nugget of hope to someone, then, and that's what I tell people all the time. I'm like, I hear you. I see you and I hear you because it's awful when no one sees you and no one hears you.
Especially when you have your best friend who is so desperate that they commit suicide because or attempt suicide because they don't want to be here anymore because they don't 'cause she was having the same problem you were. Nobody was listening to her either.
Yeah, except for me. And,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, and
you're a 15 to 16-year-old kid. I had no power. You know what I mean? There was nothing. I was there. I was there for her in the best way that I knew how to do at that time in my life and with the wisdom and experience I had, which was very little when you're 15 or 16.
but you have a heart of gold. Where did that come from? Is it because of those experiences, do you think? Or do you think I tend to think that you were born with it.
I think I was probably born with it. And yeah, I think I was born with it and were placed in situations uh to hone that,
Mhm.
I guess. You can't be good at something unless you've struggled with some of it yourself. That's my personal opinion.
I
Um,
agree
and you
with you
have to go
100%.
through struggles yourself in order to turn those around and help others that are struggling.
Without the experience of struggling yourself, you not only don't have any credibility, but you also don't have the experience to be able to say, "Listen, I've been there. I understand."
Right,
And I had a conversation earlier today that was like, love is not even necessarily talking. Love can be just holding somebody's hand and letting them tell you what's on their heart, and you don't
right,
have to say anything.
right. And many times, yeah, many times. That's why I tell people there's been over the years, many times, especially as veterans, because I'm very involved in the veteran community. I will tell them, like I said earlier, I hear you. I see you and I hear you. And sometimes that's all you need to say is to let them know, acknowledge that you see them, acknowledge that you hear them. And you never know, that might be the one thing, that one little nugget that turns it around.
Absolutely. By the way, would you do me a favor?
Sure.
Next time you talk to your 80-year-old mom, tell her thank you from me. I know how hard it was to be a single parent and raising 4 kids 40 years ago. It was hard, and
Yeah.
she had to
Different
work.
time,
Yeah.
small town America. Whoo-wee.
She had to work. She probably worked in restaurants. She probably worked in housekeeping, and she did a lot of really physical, hard work. And to keep the 4 of you going, and she should be extraordinarily proud of the woman that you have become.
It's interesting. How often do you have those conversations with your parents? And takes me to in my mid-50s to have this deep conversation with my mom. And I had said, "Mom, I don't know how you did it with 4 kids." And she goes, "I don't know how I did it either." She goes, "But you know what? All 4 of you turned out pretty damn good."
Yes, indeed.
And that was her words. And we both got a little teary-eyed at that. got a little emotional there. And my mom does not like to get emotional. So it
W-
was very it was it was interesting that we had that conversation at all, because that was a pretty heavy conversation.
Well, when
And
you're
she
when
doesn't
you're
typically get into those and doesn't care for them. And we
no,
were finally able to do that, and it's like, well, so, it's all in the timing that it was meant to be. So
well, when she is the mother and the father, and she is not allowed to be able to say, "No, I ain't gonna. I'm gonna go on vacation and the heck with what's going on." You take that hard stance of, "I will do what I have to do to get this done," and to turn around and then be emotional and to open your heart. That takes number one, takes a lot of courage, and sometimes
very
takes
hard, I think. Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
you
my
have to, it's hard to, I know my struggles and what I've went through and how I think, oh, why does my mother never understand me? Or this person's never going to get me. But now that I had this chat with my mom, and you nailed it, just as you said, it was, 40 years ago. She had to flick that switch to either, can I be the very maternal, caring mom, or am I the one that's got to work my tail off to keep a roof over our heads? And she had to choose.
yeah.
And, looking at that now, that's when I think where I'm standing at now in my life. I'm like, holy cow. I get that part from her, being able to flick that switch. That's just a little epiphany right now, Kevin. You just brought that to light for me. Thank you.
Oh,
I got that from my mom.
yeah, you and you're more than welcome. And the cool thing about it is, you've been on Positive Talk Radio, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 times, and every time you come on, it's different. We
It
have a
is. We go a different direction every time. Yeah.
and all of it is based in the love and caring that you have for all humanity, and especially those that can't get through it themselves, like in the VA with the veterans that you work with. And we're going to get into that in a little bit, because I don't think that you're celebrated enough for all the things that you do. The Nuggets of Hope, Let Fear Bounce podcast, the books you've written, and all the things that you do. And you're very and Dexter, your office manager, is right there beside you all the time.
Yes, he is. And Dexter, by the way, folks, is my dog, but he is my office manager. Yes, he tells me when it's time to take a break, tells me when it's time to go for a walk, tells me when it's time for a treat. So, he's pretty smart. He's pretty smart, actually.
Yes, indeed, and it's great to talk to you, and I just love the conversations that we have. Let's talk about something that's really relevant right now, and that's you've got a brand new book out.
I do. I do. And it's called Paw Prints on the Couch. It's available on Amazon. And for the first month, it was a #1 top new release. And that was so
Woohoo!
exciting. But it's called Paw Prints on the Couch. And it's kind of like a chicken soup for the soul, kind of.
Uh huh.
And so there's 10 co-authors in there, including myself, and they're all sharing stories, just short stories. They're quick short reads, probably a 5 to 10 minute read per story. And it's all stories about rescue animals and how they came into their humans' lives and how they changed their lives for the better, that the love and just how they enrich and fill, fill your heart, having those the fur babies, their sweet souls come into your life, and how much good they bring into it. And it, the I've had the feedback I've had from the people who have read the book and some of the reviews that I've received, every one of them has said, you're going to smile and you're going to enjoy these stories, but you're also going to want to make sure you have Kleenex handy because animals' lives are short, and you do have to say goodbye before you really want to. And you have to share that part of it too, you know, because that's just the way it goes. But I don't know, I think animals are here for exactly as long as they're supposed to be because their hearts are so, there's nothing they need to work upon on themselves. They're here, I feel. They're here to enrich our lives. God put them in our lives for a reason. And they don't need to be here any longer than they are because they do their job so well. It's us humans that are flawed.
And that is so true. And I've had a couple of dogs. I've always had dogs, love dogs. And um but I've gotten to the point now where the end times are so hard. Well, I'll give you an example. My father, who I love dearly, passed away in January um, of 2004, I think, 2005, one of the two. And my best friend in the world, his name is Crockett. He was 8 years old and he got cancer, and I had to put him down. I was very sad when my dad died. I cried like a baby when my dog died because they depend upon you for so much, and they give you so much in return. He was the only one. Crocker was the only one in my house that every time I came home, he was happy to see me.
They're awesome. They're
You can't-
awesome. They are just, they spend their entire life waiting for you. So you go to the store, it feels to them, it feels like you're gone forever. You go to work for 8 hours, 8 or 9 hours a day, and they're home by themselves. They wait on you. They spend their whole life waiting on you. And they do it just because they love you. And they get so excited and they just, explode when they see you. They're I know Dexter, his whole body starts wet, and he's a big dog. His tail wags, but his whole body goes from his head to his tail. Just gets so excited. When I come back, I'll be gone for 20 minutes. And I come back. He always grabs a toy and he jumps into, it's my dining room window that faces the door as I'm walking in from the garage. And he will be in that window with the toy in his mouth and his whole body just going back and forth because he's so excited. And I'm like, sweetie, I was gone 15 minutes, but to them it's forever. But they live to please and love you. That's just so perfect.
That's all they do. And I was traveling at the time, so I would be gone 2 or 3 or 4 days.
Oh
And
yeah.
when I came home, and my wife was there, and the kids were there, and but when I would come home, Crockett was like, "Oh my God, he's not dead! He came
Yeah.
back! Oh Lord, I'm so happy!" And it was, I I wish my wife would say, "Well, can you mow the lawn tomorrow?" And my dog would still be happy. So I was much happier to see my dog than that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Now,
um,
okay, I have a question. When you were gone, because I used to have to travel too for when I worked outside the home, I did have to travel. And my dog would go into a kennel. And so, like doggy daycare, or, we called it the spa. You're going to the spa for a week. So when I would pick him up, he'd be like crazy, crazy excited. But then within like 10 minutes, he'd realize, wait a minute, you left me. And he would walk into the other room and face the corner and ignore me for like the entire first day I was home.
oh, I was going to tell this story. Now I have to tell this story.
Okay, share.
Um,
I'm ready.
when my family, for my 50th, my folks' 50th anniversary, they took the entire family, my sister and her kids, my kids, and my wife and me, to Hawaii for 2 weeks. And now the Crockett had never been in a kennel before. But he had, and nobody else could take him. So he went to a kennel for 2 weeks. So we got home, we went to get him. He sat on my wife's lap in the front of the car in the van that we had, and he would not look at me. He
He was
he said
sick.
He was so mad. He was like, look, I get it. You're the alpha male, so you're the one who did this. Nobody else is responsible. This is you. I'm not going to even look at you. And so I would call his name, and he would move his head farther to the other way. Like, I'm not going to look at you. I'm not going to smile. I'm not going to wag my tail. It's you. You did this to me for 2 weeks.
I wouldn't even get the side eye. Yeah, he just would turn his head completely away from me. And I'm like, ooh, look, you got a little attitude going on.
and that's how I know that they're precious, and they've got souls, and they've got wonderful personalities. And matter of fact, do you know who John Edward is?
I think we've talked about him before, but remind me.
He's a psychic medium.
Yes, you have mentioned him. Yep.
And he told me that my dog Crockett is with my dad on the other side, and they are patiently waiting for me to show up. And I believe that 100%. And if you listen to him and others talk, they are on the other side, and they do wait for us to be reunited, because there's a connection there that supersedes just about anything I can think of.
Well, and what a cool visual too. What a cool thing that you can carry with you.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
awesome.
Yes, indeed. It really is. So you've written the book, and it's doing really well. And
it is. It's doing pretty good. I'm pleasantly surprised. So it's kind of fun.
Well, it's got a great name to it. Paw Prints on the Couch, right?
Yeah, Paw Prints on the Couch. And I'm considering doing another one, maybe next year, mid to late next year, maybe. And I'm going to call that one Paw Prints on the Kitchen Floor.
I think that would be great fun, and everybody loves talking about their dogs and those stories and things like that. But Kim, you are so much more than that. We need to take a break, but when we come back, we're going to touch on, because we've talked about it a lot before, but we're going to touch on your work with the VA. We're going to touch on Nuggets of Hope, and your podcast, and everything that you're doing to make our world a better place for all of us. You're listening to Positive Talk Radio right here on KIXI 880 AM. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Do you need to boost your sales? Join our partnership program. Each quarter, we promote 10 partner businesses. What will you get? The company will produce one 30-second video for your business. Your website links on positivetalkradio.net and kmmedia.pro. One dedicated podcast or radio show per month. One video Instagram reel. One YouTube short. One 60-second clip for social media taken from your interview, and at least one commercial airplay per show. All podcast and video commercials are within the fabric of the show and will remain in the show forever. Visit kmmedia.pro to book a consultation today.
When you want to say more than words communicate, you can with flowers. Your custom boutique floral studio in Bothell, Washington is anaturaldesign.com, connecting you to nature through the language of flowers. Where your people are is where our flowers are beautiful. Your success is our goal.
For being our appreciated listener, you can use promo code PTR20 at checkout to receive 20% off your order.
anaturaldesign.com at your fingertips today.
We believe in the power of telling your stories. We want to help yours be seen and heard. At the Pacific Northwest Collaborative Magazine, our purpose is to connect you to your community. Let's begin by celebrating the accomplishments of local artists featured in this brand new digital magazine. Here, you can learn about opportunities to creatively come together and support our local community and neighbors through the gift of art and service. If your business or organization would like to take part in this magazine, message us on Instagram at pnw.collab. You can download our free digital magazine at KM Media Pro today.
Thank you to our dedicated fans. We are updating our live on-air schedule to make it super easy for you to hang out with us 5 days a week, Monday through Friday at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We broadcast on YouTube, Facebook, and live on Fridays with KIXI 8:80 a.m. Seattle Live. You can find our library to binge all the podcast platforms. We can't wait to see you at 3 p.m. Monday through Friday, starting September 4th, Labor Day 2023.
And welcome back, everybody, to Positive Talk Radio. I hope you're having as good a time as I am, because I get to talk to Kim Lengling, and she is an extraordinary human being, and she does so much. And every episode that we've done so far, I can make her cry at one point or another.
Pretty much, yeah.
Because she does so much for humanity, and the reason that you are so special to me is that you do so much and you ask for nothing in return. It's not a matter of I'll give you this if you give me that. It's a matter of, I know that you need this, and so here you go. It's like in the small community that you're in, you're now known as the Nugget Lady.
The troop lady and the nugget lady, yeah.
Talk about nuggets of hope real quick.
Nuggets of hope. Oh, I know I've shared it several times. Oh my goodness, Kevin, this just happened today. I'm going to share this part of it. Nuggets of hope, very briefly. A couple years ago, I started literally handing out polished stones with the word hope on them. And I would approach people that I felt nudged to approach, and I have a very strong faith, and I feel that that's God nudging me, like this person needs this today. And so I've been doing that for a couple years, and it started out just tucking cards like with affirmations on, like, you're a rock star and you're awesome, and the world's a better place because you're in it. And I would tuck those around in stores when I was out running errands. But then it was like I felt very strongly I was supposed to do something a little bit different, but I was supposed to personally approach people. And so I just approach people with my little nugget of hope and just say, excuse me, ma'am, or excuse me, sir, I would like to give you a nugget of hope today. And without fail, every person I've approached in the last 2 years has opened up their hand, and I put that little nugget in their hand, and they accept it. And I've had a wide range of reactions, which is tears, laughter, hugs, many thank yous, and a couple people looking at me like, "Who are you, crazy woman? Why are you trying to give me a stone?" And then I had one person yell at me in anger, and I didn't take it personally because I knew that that anger and that frustration was not directed to me as a person. It was just where that gentleman, an older gentleman, was at in his point in life. Did I know him? No. Will I ever see him again? Probably not. But I think I strongly know, I feel that I did what I was supposed to do by giving him that nugget of hope. So I've been doing that for a couple of years, and I carry these little stones with me everywhere I go. And I have them, like, in that little section, like cup holder thing in your car, in the middle console thing. I keep a couple there, or I have one in my coat pocket, whatever. But today, this is so exciting. Today, now I was a guest on a local cable television show a couple weeks ago. Me and Dexter, actually. Dexter and I were a guest on this show, and the show is called My Dog and Me. And it happens to be my neighbor who is the host of this show. And it's on your local, or here, just in our area, this local cable network show, so it's just Meadville and or wherever their network is shown, but not it's not international or not national, it's just local cable. And I had jokingly said to the camera guy, not knowing he was also a producer, jokingly after that show said, my goodness, because we both know the host, and we have kind of this banter that goes back and forth, kind of sarcastic banter,
Sure.
And so we were joking around with her. Her name is Sue. And I said, you're letting her have a show. I go, I've got something even better called Nuggets of Hope. Now I think that should be a show. And he said, tell me more. And I went, what? Because I was so articulate. You know? But he goes, here's my card. Send me an email of your idea. And I got home and I was laughing. You know that kind of like nervous laughter that you get? And I'm like, I just pulled that right out of my pants and tossed it at him just, as a joke because we were messing with Sue. And I got an email from him today and he said, give me a call. So I called him and he said, love the idea of this show. Let's do it. And I went,
Wow.
what? And he goes, how often do you want to do it? And I said, well, it's your network, and he goes, and I said, well, who does all of it? He goes, I'm the producer. And I went, oh, okay. And he said, how about we try it out twice a month, half-hour shows, twice a month. And I said, okay. And he goes, do you have a place that we can record? And do you have guests? And I just said, yes. Yes, I do. And I said it with confidence. And now I have to work on that, Kevin. But I do have a place to do it at, which is really cool. This a really beautiful, another woman she's going to be one of my first guests. But I mean, that was something that I just literally just pulled out of the air and threw it at him. And then 2 weeks later, this show is going to be beginning in January. I'm going to have a twice monthly half-hour show on our local cable television network called Nuggets of Hope.
Oh, Kim, that is. I would just like to point out to everyone that when you are doing good things in the world, those things just happen. They're organic. It's just kind of the way it is because the powers that be, the folks on the other side, call them what you will, they're interested in the betterment of mankind. And so they're providing you with that opportunity. By the way, if you need somebody to come on your television show, I'd be happy.
Can you fly? Can you come over here in person?
It's no.
I know. It's like we are literally on the opposite end of the country from each other. By the way, hi Seattle from Pennsylvania.
From Pennsylvania. Yeah.
Pennsyltucky. That's what my dad used to say, Pennsyltucky.
By the way, I wanted to be, I said this before, and I believe it firmly. Even the gentleman that you gave the nugget of hope to that was angry, this is what I think happened. He went home, he put it in his pocket, forgot about it. Went home, and as older folks will do, they take the change out of their pocket and they put it on their dresser and that kind of thing. Well, out comes the nugget of hope with everything else. And he was sat there on his dresser all night long. When he put his pants on the next day and was going to go out, he took that nugget of hope and put it in his pocket because overnight he recognized how important that was and how heartfelt it was for you to give it to him. And he felt compelled to do that. I'm absolutely positive that that's how it played out.
I strongly feel that, yeah, he didn't see it for what it was at the time. But yeah, later that day or maybe the next day, like you said. And I picture, you walk in and you've got, in your vestibule or your hallway, and you've got that little stand with the bowl.
Yeah.
My grandfather always dumped his car keys and change in this bowl.
Yep.
And that's what I picture in my head, because this gentleman was old. He was definitely in his mid to late 80s. He was definitely an older gentleman. And you and I have talked about it before. We, no idea what his life was at that moment. He could have just been recovering from being incredibly ill. Maybe he just got a terminal diagnosis of something. Maybe he was caring for his wife who has Alzheimer's. And if anyone's ever had to deal with that, it's a nightmare, and it's so hard and heartbreaking to go through, and very, very difficult. So, you never know what is going on behind the mask that people wear every day when they leave their house. You never know the battles that are being fought that you will never see, because you don't see the scars. They're invisible, but they're
Yes,
still there.
they are indeed, which leads us what a segue this is, because it leads us to what else you do, which I think is just phenomenal, because you work with your local VA. You go to the lodge, as it were, and you work with predominantly Vietnam vets. But you guys do something that I'd never heard of before, which is you send care packages to kids that are overseas in and being
To
deployed,
military.
to
Military.
military kids that are overseas that are active duty. Tell us about how you got into that, what that's all about.
We are in our 23rd year of doing that. Really makes me feel old sometimes. 23rd year. We have been sending packages every month, every single month. And I sat down a few years ago just thinking, gosh, that's a lot of boxes that we sent. And it's been in the hundreds of thousands for 23 years, sending boxes every single month. And we started in 1998. And then 9/11 happened, and it really, really ramped. It exploded from there. And everything we do is by donations. We send, boxes, those flat rate boxes. So they're bigger than a shoe box. It's the square ones, and I don't know the size of it, but you can fit, nice amount of stuff in. And so everything we send is donated for 23 years. Because we're a veteran post, we're a nonprofit, and the monies that we receive, we help our local veterans here in our area where we live very quietly. We do it very quietly in the back end. So the project Support Our Troops, sending the boxes every month, that's all by donations from the people, organizations, individuals, companies, businesses, all different kinds of things. So to be able to do that and that also includes postage. And it's about
Wow.
$24 a box to send. And when you send hundreds of boxes a month, add that up. That's a lot of money. Add that up after 23 years. Hundreds of
That's
thousands of dollars, if not more. And all done by donations. So that says a lot about the community that I personally live in and the communities that surround us. We're very rural here, and I don't know how it is in big cities because I don't live in one and I never have. But I know where I live at, you know your neighbor. You get to know people over the years, especially that's why I'm known as the Troop Lady, because we have a weekly radio show on the local classic rock station that I'm on Friday mornings. It's like a 15-minute show, and we talk about what we're doing with Project Support Our Troops and other veteran related stuff. It's all about veterans. And that's just something I volunteer my time to do every Friday morning. And so I'm known as the Troop Lady after 23 years of doing this. And people don't recognize my face, but they'll recognize my voice. And I'm sure that you get this too, Kevin, but I was in Walmart several times and I'll just be talking to the cashier, or because I talk to everybody. Everybody becomes my friend. Yeah, I just chit chat with everybody. And at one point, some guy said, "Hey, aren't you the Troop Lady on the radio?" And I turned around and there's this older gentleman behind me. And I said, "Well, yes, I am." He goes, "Voices for Vets, right?" And I said, "Yeah." And I go, "Friday mornings, 8:35 a.m." And he goes, "It's you. It's you." So that's how I got to be known as Troop Lady. But that's what we do. Yeah, send out boxes every month. It's all done by donations, and how incredibly blessed we are to be able to do that for so many years, all by donations, all of it.
It's interesting. I was talking with a gentleman that was he's a journalist, and he was embedded with some of the army troops that went into Iraq. First of all, there were 500,000 of our troops were there at one point, and he was telling me that in a lot of cases, when they were going from here to there, they would dig a hole, and that's where they would sleep, and they had
Right.
no tents, and they had and so to get something like that from home, from somebody who you've never met, that would be outstanding. In fact, you've had people come to your place from after they get done with their deployment to tell you, and there probably wasn't a dry eye in the house when this happened, to tell you how important that was for them and their sanity as they were
Yeah.
facing all of this stuff.
We've had a few over the years, especially that first 8 to 10. Was pretty intense, and patriotism was very high at that time, if you recall.
I do.
Not quite so much anymore, but at that time it was. And we had several over the years that didn't even live in Pennsylvania. They
One
were
was from
rotating
Arkansas, as
home.
I recall, right?
Excuse me?
One was from Arkansas, as I recall.
Yes, there was one gentleman from Arkansas, and he met us at our local market house where I live at. Myself and Lori, she's my cohort. Her and I do run Project Support Our Troops, and her husband Phil, who's a combat Vietnam vet. And this gentleman met us there, and we had coffee. And we're sitting outside of the picnic table at this market house, and gosh dang it, Kevin,
I knew I'd get you.
it's so humbling because we put stuff in a box and sent to this guy, and he was over people, so he shared all his stuff with his unit, and we in turn send other boxes to his unit, so he can hand them out. And he is one of the ones who said, you guys kept us sane, and you were our angels. You kept us sane. You reminded us that there was a world out there. And he gave us challenge coins. And I don't know if a lot of you folks listening, maybe you don't know what it is if you don't have anybody that's ever been in the military or you, but a challenge coin is something that's typically like that's a unit thing in actually all branches of the service. So there might be coins made for those units of when they were deployed and where. And each of the people that are in the unit have one, they get one. And that's very meaningful and special to those guys and girls. And for them to give theirs up and give it to you, that's really quite a big deal. And this gentleman brought one for both Lori and myself. And we knew how much that meant. It, it was so humbling, Kevin. It was so humbling. And he made a side trip to Pennsylvania on his way home to Arkansas. And he was in his 40s, so considered an old man,
Oh, yeah.
you know,
Oh, yeah.
and he had quite a few people under him. And he said that that was probably his toughest deployment. And he shared way more than what we ever anticipated him sharing. And at one point, he apologized for some of the stuff he was saying. And we said, don't apologize. We see you and we hear you. No judgment here. No judgment. We just listened. We just listened. And he did say, and I can't remember his exact words, but he said, I can't go home and share this with my wife.
No.
And that was all he said. That was it. And we understood. Pretty heavy. It was pretty heavy. And that was just one. That was just one. Several. We could talk for hours about the people that we've kept in touch with, or a dear friend of mine. Oh my goodness, he literally lives like a mile and a half from me. He was deployed for I think 16 months. And of course, I put his name on the list, and so we're sending him boxes and stuff. And one year, someone donated a whole bunch of little teddy bears, and they all had t-shirts on. Like one had a Marine shirt, and one said Air Force, and one said Army, and we had a whole bunch of, and so if we could find out which branch of service they were in, we sent them teddy bears. Well, I knew this my friend was in the Army, so sent him an Army teddy bear. And he was deployed 16, 18 months, something like that. And when he came home, he came to my door because he just lives a mile and a half away. He came to my door with that teddy bear in his hand. And he said, "You have no idea what this meant to me when I opened up this box and saw this teddy bear. It never left my side. It never left my side the whole time I was there. And I made a point to make sure it did not get left behind." And it's still to this day, and this was years ago. It was the first 5 years we were doing it, and we're in our 23rd year. And to this day, he has it on his mantle at his house.
It means more to him than you'll ever know.
I know. I know. And you just don't know, folks. I guess the whole point of my rambling, uh, you just don't know what it is that's going to touch someone so deeply and so profoundly that keeps them going. I have no idea what he went through over there, and I'll never ask.
It
I'm
was a
not
lot.
supposed to ask. I think if they want to share, I'll listen. But I never ask a veteran what they saw, what they did. I never, ever ask because that's a tough one, pretty darn personal. And a lot of people can't talk about it. But if they ever want to, I always say, I see you and I hear you.
Well, and because you've worked with a lot of Vietnam vets, and that's my era, Vietnam. And for those of you that weren't alive then, it's amazing to me how many people were not alive during the Vietnam experience. It was tough. It was tough for those guys. There were 500,000 guys that were over there, and 56,000 of them never returned. Hundreds of thousands were wounded, and it was a dark experience. They would come home, and people would be less than kind as they came home.
That's putting it nicely. Yeah.
I wasn't.
Yeah.
I didn't want to say they were getting spit on, and they were, but I think that that
But
that
they were.
but yeah, but they were. But I wanted to, and sadly, Kim, I could talk to you for hours, but I want to make sure that everybody understands something. If you're listening out there and you have it in your heart to give back, it doesn't. You don't have to be rich. Kim and I are sitting here, and she is not rich. She's on a fixed income. She's able to live her life, but when she gives, it's a heartfelt thing. When she buys the nuggets, they're expensive. It costs her money. She doesn't ask for anything in return. So if you don't have to be rich to give. You don't have to be rich to care. If all you do is be kind to other people and say thank you, that's enough. But please, we live in a society that now, and you were talking about small town versus big town. I live in a big town. Nobody cares. Nobody talks to one another. Nobody knows. You don't know your neighbor's name. Um, it becomes a real lonely experience to be in a large community. You'd think that we would be all together because we're a bunch of people, but we're all doing our own thing and we're not taking care of each other like you do in a small town. But I just want the reason I love having you on the show is because you're doing everything from your heart the way that you believe your creator's telling you to do it, and you're doing it without fail, without questioning. You're just doing it. Why do you do this?
Because I finally started listening. I was in my own darkness for a very long time, for a very long time. And when I came to my faith, I was at rock bottom for me in my life. It was rock bottom. And when I came to my faith, it was as if something opened up and I was able to see things differently. And I didn't look upon the everything. I didn't look upon everything as out to get me or evil. I was able to start seeing the good again. where I hadn't been able to for a very long. I live with PTSD, and that has its own struggles and stuff, day to day. But back then, back in the day, um, as I was coming out of that darkness, it was as if my eyes were open and I started noticing that there was color. There was color in the world still, and there was goodness in the world, and I could let my guard down. It was okay to do that. It was okay to relax. And when I was able to do that, now that was a journey, didn't happen overnight, but when I was able to do that, and even on that journey, that bumpy little journey, noticing the little things again, you know, and taking joy, finding joy and finding peace in those little things. Oh my goodness, Kevin, my world changed.
Well,
My,
my
my
friend,
world just changed.
you're gonna have to come back again and again and again. But real quick, Kim Lengling, that's Lengling, author.com. You can go there, and she's got a little coffee cup. Buy her a
Yeah,
cup
buy
of
me
coffee.
coffee because I
Buy her.
love coffee.
She does. And Kim, thank you so much for being here. You make this world, you make my day brighter by your very existence. And I want to thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. I love coming on your show. I'll come back anytime.
Thank you. And take care, everybody, and be kind to one another because each other's all we've got. We'll see you next time.